Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video we are doing a gel polish and stamping tutorial, and of course we're going to be doing a little bit of a Christmassy design, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now to start off with, I am working on top of some display tips, so I'm going to come straight in and apply my gel polish, and I'm going to be using Kiki London's Nude Delight. I think this is a really nice nude base for a Christmas or winter design because it's got a really nice warm cozy tone to it. It's an absolutely beautiful color. Now I applied it a little too thin on that first nail, so I do come in with a little bit more to fix that up, but basically what I'm doing is just coming in and popping my first coat down on all 4 of the nails. Now this is quite a simple nail design. I just was sitting down at my desk and fancied doing some simple stamping, so I thought I'd film it. So I'm just coming in, applying that first coat of colour, and then I'm just going to jump back to that first nail and apply a little bit more because it just was a little bit too thin. Now in one coat this is quite a sheer natural looking nude, but once we've popped that first coat in and secure, we're going to come in and apply the second coat, and then this does make this colour a lot more opaque. Now there are a lot of different nudes to choose from Kiki London, so depending on the colour you're looking for or the opacity you're looking for, there is really a nude for everyone. I've only very recently got this one, so I think this is the first time I've actually put this one into a design, but I really did like it, especially once you've come in and applied that second coat of colour and the full opacity comes through. It's just a really cute shade. Now although on that first coat I said I applied my gel polish too thin, I don't apply my layers too thickly. You want to keep them on the more thin side but not too thin like we had done on that first nail. And then we're going to jump on to the stamping, so I'm going to be using the Christmas 01 plate from Miss Lucy, and I believe all of the stamping polishes I use today are from Born Pretty, so I will leave everything I've used linked in the description box below, so do check that out. But I thought I would include, we've done a fair bit of stamping in this design. We're going to stamp on the Noel, and then we're going to add on some little greenery around them, and I felt as though it ended up being quite a simple but really cute design. So I stamped down my first image. I'll talk you through my steps on how we stamp on the next one, but we are going to start off by giving our stamping plate a clean. So I always clean my stamping plates with either gel polish remover or acetone, and either a piece of paper towel like I have here or a lint-free pad. You can also get sponges as well. I was using those for a while and they are quite eco-friendly because you can just pop them in the wash, but in videos they do look a little bit messy because not necessarily all the stamping polish gets removed from them. Then I've applied a generous amount of stamping polish, scraped across the image, and as you can see we've then done a quick flick of the wrist and that image has picked up beautifully. And then this is the tricky part because obviously I want the Noel to go across all 4 nails, so the tricky part is getting it to line up exactly in the right position. So I was making sure to have that image in the center of the nail and then slightly more towards the top part of the nail. And then I'm just comparing it with the first one to make sure that I am happy with how that's positioned so it flows nicely across the nails. Now the Noel here is on the larger size, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this design on too short nails. I do think it suits more medium length nails, to be honest. So I've cleaned off my stamping plate, and then we're going to just repeat those steps. So I always apply a generous amount of stamping polish. I always personally feel that it's better to apply more than what you need than less. I know that does equal more waste, but I just feel with applying a generous amount you always get the image fully covered and you get a really nice crisp clear pickup of the image. So if you're struggling with any of your images looking a little bit grainy, looking as though there's little areas where you haven't fully picked up the image or the edge of the image isn't looking crisp and sharp, then try using a little bit more stamping polish and see if that helps. Now this particular red is super pigmented, so it doesn't clean off the plate very easy, but you do need to make sure that you're cleaning off as much of it as possible, otherwise that can also affect you getting a really nice crisp pickup when you come in and do your next image, because if there is any stamping polish left on the plate from the previous image, it's going to dry on, and even if it's only a small amount it can affect your pickup. So I always like to make sure that after every single image I go in with my acetone and give the plate a really good clean. And then another thing that I find really easy to when it comes to stamping down your image is using a clear style stamper like I'm using here, where you can actually look through the stamper. So although this is a double-ended stamper, you can remove the other end and look directly through the stamper to see exactly where you're placing your image. This I think is invaluable. Before, when I very first started stamping, I was just using a stamper that I think had a plastic, and I think there was even a metal ended one as well, and you couldn't look through it, and it just made it impossible to do any kind of layered stamping or lining up any images. So if you are new to stamping and you're looking to purchase your first stamper, I would highly recommend one that is clear and you can look through it. Miss Lucy herself, I do believe she will have a stamper coming out in the future. The one I'm using here is from Simply Polished, and I have also used both the Born Pretty and the Clear Jelly stamper versions that are similar to this, and I found that they all work brilliantly. So again, once I'd finished all of the red, I did think I showed you, but I was talking. But once I'd finished all the red stamping, before we moved on to the green stamping, I made sure to give my plate a really good clean. I also made sure to give my scraper a clean and my stamper a clean. So the reason you want to make sure you're cleaning your scraper is because if your polish builds up and dries on there, then you're going to find that when you're doing your scrape, you're not getting a nice clean scrape, and then this can affect your image as well. Although you might not think it necessarily will, if you're not getting a clean scrape, then you end up with too much polish left on the plate because you're not removing enough of the excess. So then when it comes to picking up your image, it won't look as clear and as sharp. So I always make sure to give my scraper a wipe with some acetone, and the scraper that I'm using, that's also from Miss Lucy, and what I love about that is it's acetone resistant, so as much as you rub at it with acetone, it doesn't remove the lovely Miss Lucy branding that's on there. And then to clean my stamper, you see there I just use my lint roller. So I always have my lint roller to hand to clean off any excess images. So you'll see here when we scrape this little leaf and we pick up the image, it's picked up some images surrounding it. So I use my lint roller as I find this the quickest, most efficient way to remove those excess images, but it's also a great way to clean your stamper, whether it's before any kind of nail art or at the end. If you've kept your stamper in a drawer for a little while, you might find that there's little dust particles on there, or even glitters and things can sometimes land on it. I always find using a sticky lint roller the absolute easiest way to clean the stamper head. You want to avoid using anything like acetone on it because this can break down the jelly stamper and make it look dull. And I know some people talk about prepping their stampers by using acetone on them or filing or buffing, but in all honesty, I don't do anything to my stamper head apart from clean it with a lint roller. I do believe you can pop them and clean them in some warm soapy water if they're really dirty, but it's not something I've ever personally done. I've always found that the lint roller is sufficient for cleaning it, and they are nice and cheap to pick up as well, and they're handy because you can pick them up in most shops. So lastly on to this design, we're going to stamp on our little berries. So on this particular plate, there is a couple of different greenery images to choose from, and then there are a couple of different berries as well. And at first, I was only going to add the berry to the O design. So that's why we started with the O rather than the N. But then I was looking at the image and I quite liked how, even though it's only a little detail, how adding them on to the little greenery really worked quite pretty. But then after, when I'd added them on in the red, I felt as though there was a bit too much red in this design. So I wish I'd done the lettering in gold and then had the berries in red, but I may just do another design using this plate anyway, so that might be something to bear in mind. Here I had got a little bit of stamping polish on an area of the nail that I didn't want it on. This is why it's quite important to remove any of your excess images with the lint roller. But if you happen to miss some, then the easiest way to do it is to just take a little bit of acetone or alcohol on a nail art brush and just rub that off the nail. You just want to be careful that you are only rubbing where you want to remove the stamping polish, because the stamping polish removes very, very easily with acetone, and of course you don't accidentally want to remove any of your images. Now, once we have finished all of that stamping, before I come in and add any further nail art, I am going to top coat in my stamping. Now this, in this particular design, was quite an optional step, but the reason I like to top coat after doing my stamping before moving on to any other nail art is so that if I make any mistakes on the next layer or the next step, I can wipe that mistake off without wiping off all of the stamping. Especially when you've done a more intricate stamping design or layers and things like that, the last thing you want to do is have to wipe something off and accidentally take off your stamping stamping. So I'm just going to come in with a thin layer of the Kiki London top coat and just top coat all of the nails just to seal that stamping in. Now, like I said, for this particular design, this is quite an optional step because we're only going to be doing some hand painting around the edges, so it would have been easy to clean off. But at this point, when I was doing this design, I weren't 100% sure what I was going to do for the next layer. This whole set was kind of just a chill wing it set, but once I got to this step, I decided to take Firebolt, as this was one of the newer Kiki colours that I added to my collection. It's not a new colour to Kiki, it's been out for ages, but it was one that I didn't have, and it is a beautiful red glitter for Christmas. And what I absolutely love about it is it has got some chunkier glitter pieces in there as well. So I've added a small amount of this to my palette, and then I'm going to take my stripe liner brush, and I kind of wanted to frame the design. So what I'm going to do is on the end, sorry, I'm going to come across on the tip end of the nail and just do a little swoosh. And then when we get to the L, I'm going to do similar but on the other side. And then on the two, it would be the middle and the ring finger, on those we're going to do a similar swoosh but down at the cuticle areas. And it kind of just added a little something extra to the design, but without drawing away from the stamping, and it was really simple to do, and I thought it looked quite cute. Now, when you're applying glitter gel polish, it can be a little bit trickier when you are using a chunky glitter one like this one to get a really nice, neat, crisp line with your stripe liner brush. So what I like to do is just come in with my angled nail art brush and clean up the line just to get that super sharp, crisp edge. And then we're just going to repeat that step, like I said, across all 4 of the nails. Now, what I liked about as well about adding in this element to the design, adding in this chunky glitter, was obviously this design is missing a thumb. So if I was to do this set on myself, I would just do a full nail of this Firebolt for my thumbnail. So then the colour ties into the set, but it keeps the thumbnail quite simple, and then you've got the Noel going across the fingers. So I feel as though that would, I often get asked anyway, if I do a 4 nail design, what I would do on the thumb, because sometimes with a design like this it can leave you thinking, okay, well there isn't another letter, so what do I add to the thumb? So I usually would try and pick something out from one of the nails and keep the thumbnail quite simple. So for this set I definitely would have just done a full nail of this Firebolt, because this is an absolutely stunning glitter. Just using it in this small area here really doesn't give it justice, but it's super pretty, and I love that it's set in a red base as well, so you can just come in with 2 coats of this and you don't necessarily need to put another gel polish color underneath to get that real pop of sparkle from the glitter. Now, what I also like to do is, because this has got quite a few chunkier pieces in there, is I'll sometimes go in and just pick up and place those chunkier glitter pieces down where I want them to go. And then once I was happy with the glitter application, I then pop that in secure for 30 seconds and we're ready to come in and top coat to finish off the final design. So here I'm going to use the Kiki London No Wipe top coat. I really love the high shine of this one. A lot of the time I'll reach for my rubber top coat when I'm going over any kind of nail art, but where we had already sealed in the stamping with 1 layer of top coat, I didn't feel as though it was necessary to use the rubber top coat here, so I went in with the No Wipe. And like I said, this one in my opinion is the most shiny top coat that I have ever used. I do have a discount code for Kiki, so I will leave that linked in the description box below, as well as for Miss Lucy as well, so both of those will be in the description box below. That is the end of today's video. I really hope you all enjoyed this design. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would absolutely love it if you did. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.